The Lost Element by John Burns for grades 3 to 5. Once upon a time, in the land of Marquetteville, an element woke up after a long sleep to a blaring alarm clock. The element stood up and then suddenly realized the element had been sleeping for so long that he had completely forgotten his identity. Looking around the room, the element saw a calendar hanging on the wall that had only one thing written on it: chemistry exam. After checking the alarm clock for the date, the element was shocked. The test is today. As quickly as possible, the element grabbed its school bag and hurriedly rushed off to the chemistry building. As soon as the element opened the door, he realized that he was the last one to arrive and that he didn't know where his seat was in the periodic seating chart. The element first approached the back left side of the room. There, he ran into two elements whose name tags said rubidium and cesium. The element asked the two, "Do you know where I sit?" Rubidium and cesium looked at each other and said, "Your atomic radius is far too small to sit over here. Try the right side of the room." So the element trudged to the other side of the room. As he passed by the second column of elements, he noticed that he felt some sort of attraction towards them, but following the directions of cesium and rubidium, he continued to the right side of the room. Once the element found himself on the opposite side of the room, he ran into another element named radon and asked, "Do you know where my seat is?" Radon noticed that the lost element was more electronegative than himself, and so he told him, "Try looking more towards the front of the room, where the elements have a greater electronegativity." So the element moved on, still worried sick that he wouldn't be able to find his seat before Dr. Noble gave out the test. Panicking, the element looked over at iodine and saw a subscript of 2 by his name tag, which he had himself. Wanting to know more, he reached out and touched the shoulder of iodine and asked him the same question. Iodine saw his name tag and exclaimed, "You're like me. You're a diatomic element. That means that in pure form, you have 2 atoms bonded together. The diatomic elements are hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and me." Using this new information, the lost element directed himself to where the other diatomics were sitting. Knowing the test was going to start soon, the element sprinted like Ronaldo to the front of the room. Out of breath, he went to the front of the room and asked the first 2 diatomic elements he saw, fluorine and nitrogen. He asked the 2, "Where's my seat?" Nitrogen and fluorine immediately noticed the valence electrons on the element. Nitrogen said, "You have more valence electrons than me, and I have 5. And fluorine said, "You have less valence electrons in the outer shell than me, and I have 7. Putting it together, the 2 elements said, "You have 6 valence electrons. You must be oxygen." All of a sudden, the lost element's memory came back to him. He was oxygen. That was why he felt the attraction to the group 2A elements. Their ionic charge is +2, and his ionic charge is -2. Grateful that he had his memory back, the element sat down in his seat and got ready to take the chemistry exam. Proud of his achievement, Oxygen was confidently starting his test when Dr. Noble suddenly appeared above him. "Forgetting something?" Dr. Noble asked. Oxygen replied with, "Nope, I just got my memory back." To this, Dr. Noble gave him an angry look and exclaimed, "Well, clearly you didn't remember everything because you have an illegal graphing calculator. Get out of my class." And with that, Oxygen slowly and sadly got up from his seat in the periodic table seating chart and slowly trudged toward the exit door. The end.